Working over at Disney MGM Studios gave me a couple opportunities I wouldn't have had anywhere else. Cross training for the win. When I first moved to Disney MGM Studios, there was a part of me that was a little disappointed because I had loved being over at Magic Kingdom so much. I hadn't really been to the other parks. I didn't really know them as far as working goes. I definitely had visited. My goodness, I played at them all the time. I didn't know the environment. And so there was a part of me that was definitely kind of nervous and disappointed and not really sure I wanted to go there. Well, after I had been there for a short time, one of the things I realized about MGM was because our bosses were there, our main offices, corporate offices, I guess you'd call them, the main bigwigs in Photopass were all over at studios. We had opportunities there that you didn't have at any other park. We basically had opportunities to expand out. When something new was happening, we were on the cutting edge of it. And it meant that I had opportunities to do things and to cross-train in ways that I didn't have over at Magic Kingdom or some of the other parks. One of the very first things I realized, Hollywood Studios has some big-time crowd traffic direction stuff going on because it's got all sorts of big events. The Indiana Jones Theater, for example, when it empties, it's this massive wave of people that comes out of it. And my dog just got the zoomies. There's a lot of crowd control there. At the time, we had the Stars and Cars Motor Parade, where you had a bunch of the Disney characters in a Hollywood-style parade going down the street. So you've got the afternoon parade traffic and crowd control. And then there's Fantasmic at night. Just massive crowds. And if they decided to do fireworks or anything else, well, then not only did you have Fantasmic, but then you also had the Hollywood Boulevard Sunset crowds. And so there's a lot of crowd control that goes on. And I realized, you know what? If I want to extend hours, this is a great way to do it by learning what you need to do for crowd control, because they were constantly pulling people and we need help. So that was one of the very first things I did was I went over to City Hall and said, look, I know it's not my department, but who do I talk to get cross-trained in this? I had actually talked to my managers, got their blessing, said, sure, can't hurt to have people know that. And then ended up talking to somebody in guest relations, and I know, kind of a weird deal. And they connected me, and I'm trying to remember what the official department is. In any case, I ended up talking to the group that oversaw the crowd control, sat in on a training session, so that way I could be certified as crowd control trained and learn basically what they were looking for. And believe it or not, there is a technique and a science behind doing this and not going which gets very confusing, or pointing the wrong way, or knowing where to direct people, when to direct them, and when to make exceptions, and so forth. That there is a big difference between this and this. And yes, where you put your hands and how you put them and the way you point. And so yeah, technically it should be more, okay, if I'm going to do it officially right, you don't do this, you do this. Disney hand. And so you're pointing. That was the one spot you could get away with the one finger point, but again, you're supposed to do the Disney. But yes, there's actually a whole methodology behind it. And then, of course, they teach you where to stand, where they want people, how the traffic flows. Here's where we want them to go. Here's where we don't want them to go. So they've got that all set up, and they've got it down to a science. It's amazing how in-depth it is. And you think you're going to go in for 4 hours of training on how to stand there and point. But yeah, there's a lot to it. So I got the opportunity to do that. What was really neat was that training followed me. So later on, when I went over to Magic Kingdom again, and I was shooting Grand Marshals and things like that, because I'd had the crowd control training, I was actually given sometimes access into areas to be able to move that other people didn't. So when we saw Grand Marshal at Magic Kingdom, for example, we had 4 spots that we took pictures. And there's ways that you get around the crowd so you can get to those ahead of the Grand Marshal. Well, because of my training, I was allowed to cut through certain areas because they were prepped for the crowd control. And then be able to help out with the crowd control if need be. It allowed me at times that if there was something happening, that I could step away from my photographer position, shift into crowd control and help, and then go back to photographer again. And so having that training available, it meant that there were a couple times when there were incidents that I was able to help with and that I was able to take care of because it went beyond the normal cast member training. And the biggest thing for me was it allowed me to extend my hours. If I was off at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I'd just go over guest relations. Hey, need somebody helping? Sure. So it allowed me to kind of bump over a little bit. I didn't get very many official hours because it was different departments and the paperwork and everything else. But I'll be honest, there were a couple times I did it not paid. I just kept my costume on, stuck around, and said, where you want me? And I don't think they knew I was off the clock. Don't do that. That's a big no-no. But I just had so much fun with it that, because crowd control was just, it was different, so different. And at the time, people didn't argue with you and didn't get in your face. So yeah, I had fun with the crowd control. The other couple things that it did was if we were doing something new, I ended up on the cutting edge of it. When we decided to start shooting at the water parks, Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon, for example, one of the very first things they did was, is this even going to work? Can you take a camera in the water and not have it get destroyed? How do you get the pictures to the people if they're in the water? If they're floating by, you can't take a picture and just, hey, give me your card. That doesn't work. So what are we going to do? So when they decided to start shooting photo locations and check some things out, I got to be one of the very first. One of the first photo sessions, we had several photo sessions. Mine didn't take so many pictures as just, okay, is the lighting here going to work? Is this a place that can happen? We did get into the lazy river and float by and, okay, how are we going to do this? Our old Photopass cards, the initial try was to take the long rectangular ones, the credit card size, and toss those. That didn't work. We came up with a couple ideas and then they came out with the bracelets. It was pretty funny. We had a Photopass card fight in the lazy river. Yeah. So things that you do when nobody's around. But we did a couple other pictures at the pool area of a couple slides, standing at the bottom of them, and trying to do a couple things like that. I did get to ride a couple of the slides, but most of it was just kind of standing. Okay, how's the lighting and stuff like this. So that was entertaining. And then we did learn that, yes, we absolutely needed some sort of protective gear around the cameras to make sure they didn't get wet. Just because while you were in an area that you might not get splashed, splashes happen. The other thing I ended up in that was not as fun generally was dining. There was a point where Kodak had still been shooting some of the dining packages, such as at Chef Mickey's, but the Luau and some of the other dinner shows. Kodak had been shooting people as they came in and then sold the pictures to them. And so Photopass, of course, then came in and took over that. And so we had people that had done the prep work, but I was one of the very first to go out and shoot resorts regularly. I hated resorts. That's a whole nother video. But that meant catching people as they were coming up to eat, shooting their picture, and then after they got seated, at some point during the meal, you'd bring the pictures to them and say, here's your pictures. Don't you want to buy them? While they're eating and meeting characters or watching a show. Yeah. I'll do a whole nother video about that one later. Hello, Pupper. So that was interesting. Nice to be part of and realize I didn't like it. I also got to do Santa. I don't know if Kodak had been doing Santa or if it had been an independent thing or what. But the Christmas after I got there, we were shooting Santa Claus at downtown Disney Springs now, including the Bring Your Dog to Santa Day. And that was a lot of fun That was more of a stay out of the way, cameras on a tripod. You didn't really shoot candids for the most part, but I did anyways. Yeah. Couldn't resist. You see a kid snuggle up Santa, man, shoot the picture. That was one thing that got driven into me, was shoot the picture. So I did tend to take candids with Santa, and, and I would have managers come up to me. You've got the nice post picture with Santa, the kid sitting on the lap, and then I would get pictures of the kids talking to Santa, and things like that. I will never forget the manager coming up to me, and he goes, "Okay, so our procedure is we don't take candids. We shoot just the picture looking at the camera. Our procedure is we don't take candids. Your pictures are so good, they're selling. Take candids, but be careful which ones you take." So I enjoyed Santa. That was fun. It was something that was different. So instead of working over at the parks those days, you drive over, you'd have to park in cast parking, which was across the street at the time, and then either walk or ride a bus. I usually walked. It was a long walk because you would have to come across the main road and then all the way into downtown Disney. And then the Photopass store was over by the guest services office. That's also where we had studio set up. But Santa would be set up outside, usually right next to the Disney store, but there were a couple spots that we moved him. And he had a whole little house and village and everything. And that was a lot of fun. The dog day, I only got to shoot that once. And I only had one block of like 2 hours. I wanted to shoot that one more because it was so fun. Santa was amazing at getting these dogs to sit and look at the camera. I don't know how he did it. But he just had this knack. That was the one time that we did make a little bit of noise. We had dog treats. So, you get the dog's attention, and hold up a treat. And the dog's like, that was a lot of fun. That was something neat. Had the opportunity to shoot Santa, had the opportunity to do the resorts. The big opportunity was QA. QA was one of those things that every picture that we took was screened. And for good reason, because you didn't want bad pictures or people doing things in them they shouldn't. That was all headquartered at Disney MGM Studios at the time. Again, because the offices were there, it had a department or a whole level office that was set up for it. But it was not a separate department yet. It was still part of regular Photopass. So the people generally in QA were photographers. There were a couple people assigned permanently, but it was also one of those that photographers would pick up shifts in QA. And when our queue, in other words, the stack of pictures to be screened, got too large because they were falling behind, that's when some of the other people in the park would step in and start screening, because we want people to see their pictures live, real time. And that meant they had to be screened quickly. And if that queue got too long, well, then they weren't seeing it right away. So that was an opportunity I took. It didn't work quite the way I wanted at the beginning, but eventually it did. And I'll save that for a whole video about QA. That's my plan, is hopefully for the next one. But I hope you're enjoying this look at what it was like at the time, the different opportunities. Those are basically the only places that I worked. It was Photopass, shooting at the resorts, shooting downtown Disney, shooting in the parks. I never actually did get to shoot at the water parks. I did crowd control, and then I did QA. And that was pretty much what I did at Disney. There were other options I had sometimes to pick up other stuff, but cross-department stuff didn't really happen at the time. So I was one of the few that kind of branched over. And again, because I'd had training way back with character training, I knew how to run a line. So I didn't work for entertainment, which was who stocked the character attendants. Eventually we merged into that. That's coming up later on. But I was able to do the work of the character attendant. So if people got sick or if we ended up short-staffed, then I could step in there while shooting pictures and do it. So I never became a character attendant, but I definitely did the job while still doing mine. So that's not really cross-training. But yeah, there's a little bonus extra. That one's not in the script. Anyways, I'd love to hear what you think. Did you do more than one job at a theme park and cross-train and do other stuff? I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear your questions and comments too. Please share them in the comments below. Thank you so incredibly much for watching, to my patrons, my supporters for supporting me. It's been a crazy few months, and they've stuck by me, and I'm so appreciative. I've got some new ones I've got to get shout outs to. Those are coming up in my next confessions video, because I got some I'm way overdue. I'm sorry, guys. Forgive me. And we have a new trailer coming up. It's not here yet, but this thing at the end, it's changing. So watch for that coming soon as well. Thank you so much for watching and hanging around. I really appreciate it. God bless. One of the things that, when I first moved to such as at Chef Mickey's and the Falala, I'm thinking Silver Dollar City Saloon, but the name will come to me. Actually, no, his actual response was, the official thing is, we don't take cameras. We don't take cameras, yeah. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions, your ideas. Be sure to share them in the comments below, or you can contact me. There's information in the description that has my email address, fan pages, information about merchandise, and so much more. So be sure to check that out. Don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, and if you haven't already, hit the button right up there to subscribe. And in fact, if you did enjoy this, I've even got another video for you right here. And also about these wonderful people here, those are my YouTube members and my patrons, the ones whose financial support makes this possible. I couldn't do it without them. If you want to know more about that and the perks that come with it, well, be sure to check the description. There's a link right down there. Thank you so incredibly much. God bless.